Hey guys, here we are again. It's David Elliott wearing sunglasses. The reason I'm wearing sunglasses is not because I'm trying to be cool. I would never try that. It could never happen anyway. It's kind of weird that I'm wearing sunglasses because one, I'm inside, and two, it's a very rainy, gray day in New Hampshire. I just have something going on with my eye here a little bit. Nothing serious. So I decided I'd better wear these sunglasses. But if you wanted to, you could put it on pause right now and go get your sunglasses and put them on. And then we'd both be wearing sunglasses. And that'd be kind of cool. Oh, okay. So here we are again to read chapter 6 of Evangeline Mudd and the Golden-Haired Apes of the Icky Nasty Jungle. Written by me, and Andrea Wesson did the illustrations. And last time, I think for some reason, I said Andrea Reed. Why did I say that? What's wrong with me? I don't know. Andrea Wesson. I don't even know anyone named Andrea Reed. Well, before we read today, I think the last time we got introduced, or at least we heard about, Meriwether's cousin, twice removed, Melvin Mudd, and his wife, India Terpsichore Mudd. And I think what I said to you is, well, why don't you try to spell Terpsichore on your own? Kind of hard, right? And then we would talk a little bit about where that name comes from, Terpsichore. So probably you guys know something about Greek myths. If you've read Rick Riordan, surely you do. But you've heard of Apollo, you've heard of Poseidon and Zeus. Well, who you might not have heard of, or whom you might not have heard of, are the Muses. The Muses were 9 sisters, and they were goddesses of inspiration. And each one of them had their specialty. So I'm going to read to you now their names and their specialty. There was Thalia, who was the goddess of comedy. She would have been fun, I bet. Urania, astronomy. Polymnia, sacred poetry. Melpomene, tragedy. I would not want to have dinner with her. Erato, lyric poetry. Clio, goddess of history. Euterpe, the goddess of flute playing. Calliope, you might have heard that name Calliope before. You know those circus wagons, those organs, circus organs? They have kind of a hooty sound. Those are called Calliopes, and they're named after this Calliope, who was the goddess of epic poetry. And she was kind of the chief muse. And finally, Terpsichore. And I wonder if you can guess what her specialty is. Remember, India Terpsichore Mudd was a ballerina, a famous ballerina. What do you think? Yeah, you're right. Terpsichore was the goddess of dance. So those 9 sisters are called the Muses. Writers like to use things, we just try to use what we know. And I knew about the Muses, and since she was a ballerina, I thought, okay, that'd be a good name for her. And it's also kind of fun to say, and also a little bit strange, like she is. Now, how do you spell it? Well, I bet you got the first letter right anyway. Here it is. It's kind of a mean trick, really, to ask you to spell it. Terpsichore. Let's spell it together. Terpsichore. Terpsichore. 4 syllables. Okay, well, we're going to find out a little bit more about India Terpsichore Mudd today. And I think when we left Evangeline, she was on the plane flying off to her father's second cousin, twice removed. And her parents were getting ready to go off to the Icky Nasty Jungle to see that new family, that new group of golden-haired apes. Here we go. Chapter 6. Muds, Minks, Stink. Weird. It is difficult to say now if Evangeline was lucky or unlucky. It was unlucky that she had been unable to accompany her parents to Icky Nasty, but it was lucky that she had a place to stay with her father's second cousin, twice removed, and his wife. It was lucky that Melvin and India Terpsichore were very rich and could buy Evangeline anything she wanted. But it was unlucky that the only thing she wanted was to see her parents again. It was lucky that Melvin and India Terpsichore allowed Evangeline her independence. It was unlucky that they were such horrid people. Melvin Mudd was the founder and chief executive officer of Mudd's Marvelous Minks. He was busy night and day turning minks into coats for rich ladies and gentlemen who paid him a great deal of money to do so. Lately, he had been even busier than usual because of the animal nuts, a group of people who were doing everything they could to force him to shut down his mink farm. The animal nuts were actually members of an international organization called Pals United for Furry Friends, or PUFF. They believed that monks had a right to live a life of freedom, doing whatever it is that monks like to do, without the fear of being turned into a jacket by people like Melvin Mudd. They believed this so strongly that on the day Evangeline arrived, they were marching up and down outside Mudd's Manor, the enormous mansion that Melvin Mudd had built for himself and India Terpsichore. There were 3 of them, and all 3 carried signs that said things like, "Muds, Minks, Stink," and "Don't be a fink, stop Mudd's Minks." Lately, they had even started calling the house to ask Melvin how he would like to be turned into a coat. That first day, Evangeline had asked Melvin why the animal nuts were picketing the house. "You don't know anything, do you, Angelica?" Melvin snorted, poking Evangeline in the shoulder with a short pudgy finger. "Imagine that you're a mink." This wasn't as easy as it sounded. She had never actually seen a mink, and besides that, what she felt like doing was giving Melvin a poke of his own. But knowing that this was her first day at Mudd's Manor, she shut her eyes and did what she could. "Imagine," Melvin repeated. "Imagine you're a mink on a day when it's hot enough to cook bacon on a beach ball. It's boiling outside, burning, broiling, blistering, baking. But you are trapped from top to bottom in a mink coat. Wouldn't you hate it? Wouldn't you feel as if you'd do anything to get out of that coat?" "Yes," Evangeline said. She guessed she would. "Of course you would, Evelina," her father's second cousin, twice removed, grunted. "So do the minks. It's torture for 'em." He stopped to light a fancy cigar. "And that's where I come in, Juanita. I shave the minks." "You what?" Evangeline asked, opening her eyes. "You heard me. I shave 'em. I shave 'em all. Mommy minks, daddy minks, baby minks, even second cousins twice removed minks. In return, they give me all that hot, nasty hair. I make it into coats. The minks love it. I love it. And the rich ladies and gentlemen who get to wear those nice, warm mink coats love it too." Evangeline didn't like the way Melvin rolled his eyes and looked up at the ceiling when he told her that he shaved the minks. "You see," he concluded, "I'm helping the minks. In fact, now that I think of it, I'm actually a humanitarian." Evangeline wasn't quite sure what a humanitarian was. Whatever it was, it sounded a lot better than the things the animal nuts were shouting about him from their picket line. "But if you are helping the minks," she asked, "why are the animal nuts marching up and down in front of your house?" What a dummy, Melvin barked. They're jealous. They'd like to be humanitarians too, but they can't on account of they don't have any minks of their own. Evangeline didn't believe this for a second. Maybe she was only 9 years old, but she knew what Melvin was doing to turn those minks into coats, and it wasn't shaving them. I don't blame the animal nuts for carrying those signs, she thought. If I could, I would do it too. Things were no better with Melvin's wife, India Terpsichore. Evangeline's father was right. India Terpsichore had been a famous ballerina. She had stopped dancing years ago, but she was positively determined not to let herself go, which meant that she expected at the age of 40 to look exactly the way she had looked at the age of 16. India Terpsichore lived in terror of letting herself go. A gray hair sent her immediately to bed, and a new wrinkle caused sulking fits that lasted for weeks at a time. She spent hours in front of the huge mirror staring at herself as she squatted and leaped and spun like a dervish in the dancing studio Melvin had built for her in one wing of Mud's manor. "Others can let themselves go," she would shout as she whizzed about the room, "but not me, not India Terpsichore Mud." Well, once a prima ballerina, always a prima ballerina. On Evangeline's first morning at Mud's manor, no one bothered to prepare her breakfast or even to ask her how she had slept. Melvin ran out of the house muttering something about the animal nuts. India Terpsichore didn't show her face until after 10 o'clock. By that time, Evangeline was so hungry that she had helped herself to whatever she could find in the kitchen, which amounted to powdered milk and oat flakes. Evangeline was just taking her first bite when India Terpsichore came leaping into the kitchen in a way that suggested that her front half was doing everything it could to get away from her back half. Evangeline very nearly spilled her entire bowl of cereal onto the floor. The woman was wearing a pale pink tutu, a pink and white striped leotard, and matching pink toe shoes. In her hair, which was pulled back so tightly that Evangeline wondered how she could open and shut her eyes, she had stuck a bunch of pink flowers, which drooped over her face like bait in front of a hungry trout. "I hope you don't mind," Evangeline managed to say at last. "I helped myself to breakfast." India Terpsichore didn't seem to hear what Evangeline said, or if she did, she ignored it. Instead, she threw one foot up on the table about 6 inches from Evangeline's bowl. While Evangeline's eyes grew larger and larger, India Terpsichore began to flex and release the muscles in her foot, which more and more were looking to Evangeline like some alien creature trying to slink its way into her cereal. Next, India Terpsichore began to bend and twist and corkscrew her waist in the way you see ballerinas doing at the bar. One skinny hand was stuck out from her side about 6 inches from her body. The other was hanging over her head like a dying tulip. "How do I look today, Evangeline?" she purred. This question put the girl in a terrible fix. If she told India Terpsichore how she really looked, she would certainly start out poorly with her cousin's wife. On the other hand, she couldn't bring herself to say what she knew India Terpsichore wanted to hear. In the end, the ballerina solved the problem for her, because before the girl could formulate an answer that would be both honest and polite, India Terpsichore answered the question herself. "Don't tell me," she hissed. "I already know. Fabulous! I look fabulous, Evangeline." "Excuse me," the girl said, "but it's Evangeline. The last syllable rhymes with fine, not with mean. Evangeline." "Yes, of course. India Terpsichore groaned as she twisted and bounced. Of course, Evangeline! Should I? Evangeline thought. Should I correct her again? But before she came to a decision, India Terpsichore flung her foot off the table and began to prance around the perimeter of the kitchen, swishing both arms in front of her in crazy half circles. Look at me! India Terpsichore shouted. Look at me! I'll bet you can't do this. You've probably let yourself go. That's why. And with that, she threw one leg over her head and twirled like a top. When she stopped twirling, she was planning to ask Evangeline what she thought of that. But by the time the room stopped spinning, the chair at the table was empty. Oh, the little brat, murmured India Terpsichore. I was just about to perform Swan Lake for her, too. Well, what did you think of India Terpsichore and Melvin Mudd? Do you have relatives like that? I hope not. Let's take a look at some of Andrea Wesson's pictures. There's Mudd's Manor. It looks like a very nice house, but I'm not sure about the people inside it. That makes the house less nice, I think. And here is poor Evangeline trying to eat her breakfast. Whoops. Trying to eat her breakfast. And India Terpsichore sticking her foot right by Evangeline's cereal bowl. How rude. Okay. Well, at the end of that chapter, India Terpsichore said she was just about to perform Swan Lake. I wonder what she meant by that. Maybe you could do a little research. We could figure it out the next time. She says, the little brat, I was just about to perform Swan Lake for her too. Why don't you spend a little time today and try to figure out what that is. Let's see. Okay, here's the next chapter. Oh, no. I can't believe it. This is chapter 7, the title of chapter 7. I'm almost embarrassed to say what it is. Chapter 7, Fanning Pink Underwear. Oh, dear. Okay, guys. I hope you have a good day. If it's raining where you are, I hope you have another good book to read, or you have some fun games to play, or a puzzle to put together, or maybe you just want to kind of hang out with your brothers and sisters or your mom and dad. Remember to be good to each other, guys, and remember to think also good thoughts for those people who are not as fortunate as we are. A lot of people are struggling right now. Let's try to send them a lot of good thoughts. Okay, guys, I'll see you tomorrow or next time. And I don't know if I'm going to be wearing these crazy sunglasses or not. I hope not. My eye will probably be a little better by then. I hope so. See ya.